Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. As many of you know, I'm Wayne Ewasko. Hi, Conrad. Nice to join us. It's good. I'm Wayne Ewasko. I'm the interim leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Manitoba, the MLA for Lac du Bonny as well. And I thank all of you for attending here this afternoon for this very important little bit of a critique and an announcement. And I'm joined by many of my colleagues that are behind me, and specifically today as well, I'm joined by Mrs. Kathleen Cook. There's Kathleen over there, sorry. MLA for Roblin and the health critic, and also Mr. Wayne Balcaen, who is the MLA for Brandon West and also the justice critic. So again, I can't thank you enough for being here this afternoon. As a former teacher, I know the value of giving out report cards, and they help us guide students to see where they can and have done well and where they can do better in the future. Over 100 days ago, Manitoba elected a new government. But how has this new government fared with their many, many costly campaign promises? So far, all we've seen is ribbon cutting for previous PC initiatives while doing very little work on their own. Let's start with grading their record on education and childcare. Unfortunately, with the NDP admitting to CBC that they are cutting 9 new schools from being built and cutting the 660 brand new childcare spaces, I have to give them an F. We need to give our students more space to learn, but the NDP would rather scrap the 9 schools to pay for their over $3 billion worth of campaign promises. We're still waiting to hear also what's coming with this year's education funding. And let's hope for Manitobans' sake that they do not score an F on that as well. At this time, I'd like to call upon my good friend and colleague, Wayne Balcaen, who's the MLA for Brandon West, and the justice critic, to say a few words as well. Wayne?
Thank you. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being here. To all my colleagues as well, and to the leader, thank you. During the election, Wab Kinew promised he could tackle bail provincially. Wrongly, I might add, as it's a federal issue. And he also promised to do this within the first 100 days. Well, today is day 103, and crime under the NDP has only gotten worse. We've not seen a single step taken to stop violent offenders from being released out onto our streets. So where is the action? In the leaders' debate during the election, Kinew promised he would tackle bail within the first 100 days on the provincial level. It's now clear that he was misleading voters. Not a single action has been taken. The NDP have their liberal friends in from Ottawa in town just about every other week. They should be pressuring them to reform bail now and stop allowing violent offenders back out onto our streets. Minimal action has been taken by Ottawa. Our PC party led the charge nationally to demand bail reform from Ottawa. We had the momentum in our favor, but since the NDP were elected during their government time, the momentum has stopped. Instead, they're cutting ribbons and trying to take credit for initiatives from the previous government instead of coming up with any new policy of their own. So justice delayed is justice denied. And every day that goes by without any real bail reform is making our streets less safe. Prior to this election, Kinew also promised to tackle mental health issues within the first 100 days. Well, again, here we are at day 103, and we've seen that mental health is not a priority for this government. So what action has this NDP government taken in their first 100 days? How would they be graded as a government? When it comes to community safety, as a former police chief, I would have to give them an F. As an MLA, I believe my word means something, and we're clearly seeing the NDP going back on their word. That's disappointing for Manitobans. I would now like to take the opportunity to introduce Kathleen Cook, the critic for health. Thank you.
Good afternoon. During the election, the NDP campaigned almost exclusively on healthcare. It was reasonable for Manitobans to expect that they would have some sort of plan to actually accomplish everything that they said they would do. But in the first 100 days of the NDP government, we haven't seen any evidence of a plan or a coordinated strategy to improve healthcare for Manitobans. What we have seen are re-announcements and ribbon cuttings on PC initiatives. What we have seen are cuts. For example, the NDP have cut Manitobans' ability to get needed surgeries out of province without first ensuring that there was capacity in Manitoba to meet patient needs. They've also cut plans to build 6 new much-needed personal care homes. We have seen promises of future beds at a couple of hospitals, but no plan to staff them. We have seen a lack of transparency and accountability. The NDP tried to delete the online wait times dashboard, and then they put it back up, but they haven't updated it once in the last 100 days. And we've seen a lot of deflecting blame and trying to tamper expectations. It's almost like the NDP said whatever they needed to say to get elected and thought they could just buy time to figure out the details later. It's no secret that staffing is the #1 issue facing healthcare in Manitoba and every other province in Canada. All the NDP have offered for staffing is a listening tour. And there's nothing wrong with stopping at a few hospitals to listen, but it's not a replacement for a robust plan to train, recruit, and retain all kinds of healthcare professionals in facilities across the province. Frankly, they had 7 years in opposition to listen. Now is the time to act. It's becoming increasingly clear that there is no plan. And for that reason, the NDP get an F on this report card. And the NDP have set themselves up for this. They were unequivocal in their language that they chose during the campaign. They said that they were going to fix healthcare, period, full stop. It sure sounded like they had a plan, but 100 days in, that plan is nowhere to be found. Manitobans expect better. As the official opposition, it is our responsibility to hold the NDP to account for the promises that they made during the campaign and demand that they show Manitobans exactly how they plan to accomplish it. No more blame game, no more buying time. Manitobans expect to see action in the next 100 days. And now I'd like to turn it back over to our leader.
Thanks, Kathleen, and thank you, Wayne, and thank you to my colleagues for joining us here this afternoon. As a teacher, these grades are very concerning. And they should be these should be concerning to Manitobans as well. They would cause any student, parent, guardian to reevaluate their performance and strive to do better. It's time for the NDP to pick up the slack and get to work on these critical files. I know we're the opposition and it's our job to hold the government to account. But when Manitoba succeeds, we all succeed. So I genuinely hope they can take a hard look at the things that they had promised and start working to address these very important areas. We need safer streets, a strong healthcare system, and support for our seniors and a good education system for our children. Instead of cuts to pay for their reckless spending plans throughout the election, over $3 billion, we want to see support for the services Manitobans rely on the most. I want to thank all of you for attending this afternoon, and we're going to open